Hello everyone, Percy7 here back with some more Bloons Tower Defense 6 on this week of Bloonarius, which is still the double HP mob week. We're trying out the super buffed Druid of Wrath versus Bloonarius. Yes, it is going to be, the second tier 3 I've done, along with Sun Avatar, but I do believe in that just the base tier 3 Druid is strong enough to be able to take down double HP health of Bloonarius. Yes, this is just the tier 3 druid. You might be wondering, well, how is this going to be possible? Well, simple, just kind of think about it. A 0-1-3 druid shoots out 8 projectiles, and each projectile only does 1 damage. But if you do combine it with, damage adders like, Permabrew, Cripple Moab, Super Brittle, all that, you're gonna be doing, like 6 times damage, just basically doing almost nothing. As you can just think about it, like just adding alchemist would already double its damage, just because now instead of each thorn doing 1 damage per shot, each thorn now does 2 damage per shot, which doubles its damage. And it does do has pretty nice attack speed, just because it is the bottom path, and it'll attack faster the longer the round goes on. We can also leak lives in order to gain attack speed, but I figured I didn't really need to do that. And if I did need to do that, well, I was going to be kind of screwed, just because I won't be able to go for Trade Empire plus Central Market farming. We aren't going to go over stats for this week, just because, well, it's just kind of base tier 3. Nothing really too interesting about it. It shoots thorns, it shoots 8 of them. Just let's see how it does against tier 1 of 2x HP Bloonarius. So for tier 1, did have quite a bit of monies kind of left over. So just kind of getting, basic support down, it's kind of alchemist, and getting a overclock, as well as since it is just a base tier 3 and not really a strong tier 3 without really much support. I do need to kind of invest in a lot of support early game. I did have enough money to go for a Trade Empire, but I definitely was not going to be able to beat Bloonarius if I did go for that Trade Empire. As you can see here, just like this little base druid is still doing pretty decent damage against Bloonarius, just like with minimal buffs. There's only overclock, alchemist, and embrittlement, and it still is doing fairly well. Now the ceramic wave was gonna be a bit of an issue. I did kind of completely forget about that. Thankfully, again, just kind of recursive cluster in the back does clean up pretty well. We did have a fair chunk of change in order to be able to afford that, so no harm really done too much there. And seeing the DPS of the druid is doing pretty well. Like I said, 8 projectiles all doing 1 damage, add an alchemist and embrittlement, and it's now doing 3 damage per projectile, and times that by 8, and you're doing a pretty decent chunk of damage. So of course, and it'll only get a lot stronger from here once we add in Popula, Super Brittle, Cripple Moab, as well as True Sun God as well. I was a bit worried about the ceramic cluster, so I did decide to get glue in the back just to help out with damage, as well as give some even more damage against Bloonarius. And it is doing incredibly well for just how cheap it is, although we are giving it like $20,000 in support, so I guess that really shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Unfortunately, Bloonarius is getting out of range of this druid here, so I did have to go get Chinook real quickly just to burst down the last damage phase. I could wait for Bloonarius to loop back around, but I did want to kill Bloonarius ASAP just to focus on farming as hard as possible for the remaining tiers. And as you can see, base druid did really well for just a a 1k tower. Alright, so for tier 2, doing basically the same thing, just again we are going to get some Populus now, as I figured the attack speed is probably going to help out a bit more in the long run. We are going to get overclock eventually. It's just that we need to focus on farming. Since it is a base tier 3, we are going to have to farm incredibly hard just to be able to afford everything we need for the rest of the tiers. As since it doesn't do too much damage on its own, we are going to have to be able to greed as much as possible, just so that way we can actually be able to afford defense and whatnot for the remaining tiers. And we are doing, pretty well, just only having, just Populus down, as well as just having embrittlement, as well as alchemist and overclock. We got back glue strike, as I figured that, the extra damage was probably going to be needed a lot for this tier. As you can see, we are struggling quite a bit, not really doing as well as we were doing for tier 1, although that was kind of expected if I am being completely honest. Definitely are going to need a lot more support than this if we are going to take down Bloonarius in a timely fashion. As well as not to mention that we are going to be doing less damage, once Bloonarius gets out of range, just because I'm going to have to Chinook the base Druid down, as well as Chinook all the Populace kind of around it. So that is going to be a bit annoying. I was kind of wondering if Oben would be the best hero here, instead of going for other heroes like Gwendolyn. I think Gwendolyn was allowed for this week, although I can't really remember 100%. As Oben really, the only really good buff he really can give is his Pierce buff and range buff to Druid, and I do think level 17 has Druid of Wrath start speed boost attack, start a bit quicker. I'm not really sure if that's really much better than Gwendolyn giving +1 damage to towers in range, but I guess it might be. As you can see here, doing pretty well, absolutely kind of shredding this tier once we got Super Riddle down. It really does show just how much potential is really in this little guy here. Doing as much damage as tier 5s do. It is kind of crazy to really watch. But that's what happened when you give a tower 8 projectiles. It becomes incredibly strong once super buffed. Alright, so tier 3 rolling along, we got Homeland down, we also got Cripple Moab as well as Glue Storm. As you can see, the damage is going up nicely. Still only, again, our just kind of little 0-1-3 Druid, doing incredible amounts of Moab damage. It's just kind of crazy, seeing this. It really, again, shows just how much, having multiple projectiles really does. Again, low damage, fast attacking towers, do respond strongly to super buffs, to buffs more than, high damage, slow attacking towers like, Mad will. Although Mad still will easily be able to beat Bloonarius anyways. Decided to perma-brew the Cripple Mob just for faster attack speed. Game froze a little bit there, but that's kind of whatever. Shinooking Surbiddle down just to be able to get as much damage as possible on the screen. And the health is, just kind of absolutely melting at this point. And we still don't have, all the buffs kind of in place, as we still are missing, True Sun God as well. That does give pretty sizable amount of damage, as well as Ultra Boost as well. I figured that, since we already have our full Trade Empire army, we don't really need money at this point. So I figured it best just to keep the Druid around and just start giving Ultra Boost stacks to the tower. Now that I think about it, I'm not really sure if there's really any other tier 3 that could really do this well. I feel like Sun Avatar really, and this guy, is really the only tier 3 towers I feel like could actually really be good enough in order to kind of beat Bloonarius when super buff. Tac Sprayer could also be another contender, but I don't feel like Tac Sprayer has enough damage in the tank for that. And also a really small range at that. Alright, so tier 4 kind of rolling along. We got our kind of temple down, getting a True Sun God just because we have more than enough money at this point. So I figured, hey, why not go for it at this point. Druid of Wrath still doing incredibly well for its price, being less than 5k tower. It's really kind of crazy just seeing how well it ends up doing. Getting our support sacrifices for the tier 5 is just hoping to get it up as soon as possible. Was kind of delaying there, I'm not really sure why. I guess I'm making sure that not everything was in range. So getting, of course, range buffs on it. Figured this was the best spot, as since I am gonna have to Chinook this guy around for tier 5, figured putting temple in the middle would be best, just because. Now if you do notice, somehow the temple ended up getting primary sacrifices. I'm not really sure how it ended up doing so. If you look closely, there are golden blades shooting at it. That does mean it somehow did get primary sacrifices. I didn't really want it to have primary sacrifices just because, again, that makes it do more damage, and we don't really want the damage from True Sun God. We just kind of want the damage bonus from the little guy. Anyways, as you can see, base Druid is still holding on really strong, even against double HP tier 4. He still is melting the HP fairly quickly. Since I was going to have to Chinook soon, I decided to get some Populace down preemptively, just so that way I can have already premeditated spots where I am going to be Chinooking my Druid of Wrath. Chinooking it down just kind of a little bit, as it's not completely out of range yet, but I guess that wasn't really needed, as again we just ended up taking down Bloonarius that easily. Only took 7 rounds to do so, and you know, this guy is only like, again, less than $3,000 tower, and it's crazy how much damage it's doing just for that price. Alright, tier 5 again with 6 million HP. I'm checking on the DPS of Druid of Wrath. Again, it's pretty crazy just how much damage it's doing, you know, when max buffed. Imagine just how much Avatar of Wrath would be doing. I did kind of wish I did test AOW against tier 5, and I was missing, you know, a couple mobs, so we were missing just a wee bit more damage. We could have strength to just a bit more. But imagine how much like Avatar of Wrath would do, you know, with having, you know, even more damage per projectile and attack speed as well. So again, even if this guy isn't able to beat tier 5, we still have the tier 5 to really go through. But even still, looking at the damage, it does look like, you know, Druid of Wrath is going to be able to beat this tier Bloonarius. It's just going to take a while and a lot of Chinooking. I did end up getting 4 support Chinooks. I'm not even sure if that was really even enough to really be able to Chinook kind of everything around on the screen and be able to keep up with everything. So skipping over quite a bit over to the first skull, got absolutely 0 down for some reason. I think it's just for the attack speed of Super Brittle, but we don't really need attack speed on Super Brittle anyways. The bad is getting pretty far. It is a bit worrying, although we were missing the damage from Super Brittle, so that could be the reason why. It is taking a bit of a while to pop. I guess, you know, Druid of Wrath doesn't do as much damage to the BAD as I thought it would end up being. Slowing down this UMG just a tiny bit. This round, you know, 126, again, no worried. Druid of Wrath, you know, absolutely shredding here. And the best thing about this guy, and he does have pretty, you know, decent range, as you see there. So, you know, we don't really have to Chinook him all over the map. His range isn't really that small that, you know, it ended up becoming a hindrance. Got a Druid in the back just in case I did need a Superstorm for the last bad, which it does seems like we were going to need to get. I'm trying to find a place to put Oben just to get, again, just to get as much buffs as possible on the Druid of Wrath. Alright, so skipping forward to the last bad, as you can see, it is cutting it really close. Got Superstorm in the back just to blow away the insides of the BAD, just in case this guy does not end up popping it fast enough to where, you know, it's not able to pop the insides at the same time. So as you can see, the bad is just about to exit. You know, I didn't really want to restart. That would be really unfortunate, but at the last second, it did ended up, you know, popping. So Superstorm again, able to easily blow back all these UMGs and DTs. So thankfully, you know, Superstorm finally good for something. Thankfully, that was the last bad and the last skull. So that does mean we're free to just do as much damage as possible towards the last tier of Bloonarius. As you can see here, you know, Druid of Wrath is going to be able to do it. So, you know, this tier 3 is going to join the massive group of tier 5 that is able to beat down Bloonarius when Super buffed. You know, even beating out a lot of tier 5s like, you know, Comanche Commander and Elite Defender is really kind of surprising, to be honest, but really not when you think about it. Again, you know, 8 projectiles that all do 1 damage. You know, it shouldn't be surprised that, you know, when you like double, quadruple, even like sextuple its damage, it does way more than it really should. Alright, so that'll be it for the video. If you enjoyed, you know, like, comment, subscribe, join Discord, link is down below in the description. Also, if you didn't see my community post, I will be streaming over on Twitch from now on. The YouTube stream was fun, but I figured it'd probably be a lot not easier, but better for me personally just to stream over on Twitch. So join the Twitch channel, link is also down below in the description. Also, if you have any suggestions for what other tier 5s or tier 4s, maybe even, you know, tier 3s that are strong enough to be able to beat Bloonarius, you know, leave that suggestion down in the comments below. And of course, with Bloonarius being popped, I will see you guys in the next video.